Welcome to Sakrete Pro Tips using non-shrink grout. Grouting is an overused term in the construction industry. Everything's grout this, buy grout, use grout. So, what is grout? The most basic process of filling gaps or spaces between two materials. That's what grout is and what it does. Common applications that you're used to out there between tiles on your bathroom floor. But that's not what we're talking about when we go into structural grouting. Structural grouting is very different material than standard tile grout. They are not interchangeable. Structural grout is a high-strength engineered product for commercial applications. Grout operates as a structural shim, if you will, between two surfaces, generally concrete and steel. That's what we're simulating here. One common application is a structural column in a parking lot, a building, or even a light post. You'll see these posts actually, during the construction process, that they're floating. You'll see a steel base and a column floating above a slab or above ground footing, and there's gigantic steel bolts and nuts and washers holding this thing in place while construction continues. What they're doing is, when it's time to put the post in load, you're going to fine-tune it and bring it to level. And then you've got to align it perfectly. Once that's ready, you then grout it in place with non-shrink grout. So, to do that, you take a material like this and you mix it to a flowable consistency so it can completely fill the void. This provides a high-strength, stable base for columns, machine bases, light posts, etc. Now, grout, what is it doing? We've got this mass between the steel and the concrete. It's actually providing an isolation layer to minimize vibration, allow for load transference from the column down through the footing, and it also increases the shear strength of the anchoring system, the bolts, the whole system. So in many ways, we end up with a much safer building or parking deck, whatever it is we're doing, using non-shrink grout instead of connecting straight to concrete. Now that we understand non-shrink grout properties, let's talk about mixing. Think back on a ASTM C1107. Precision non-shrink construction grout has instructions on the back and on the technical data sheet where you'll find the water contents needed to hit those three states, being plastic, flowable, fluid. Fluid being the loosest consistency. So once you've determined your application versus how loose you want the material, pick that water and it's time to start. Measure that water, place 3/4 of the desired water in your mixing bucket, and then start adding the dry material. Start mixing, get it all in the solution. Continue pouring that powder, but after it's all in there, at that point, you're going to slowly add the rest of your mixing water. The whole key to mixing non-shrink grout is not to get extra water, because it easily can segregate or bleed on you. So now we've got the right amount of water, everything's mixing, mix for 3 to 5 minutes. You've got to immediately use the material once mixing is done. Now once that decision's made and it's mixed, there's no retempering the material. You've got to use it as is. But remember, it's a continuous pour anyway, so that shouldn't be an issue. So before we start mixing, let's review what we're going to do and give you some things to look for as we do it. So as I said, we're going to use this model to pour one side to the other, a continuous pour under this plate. You're going to be looking for how the material's dense enough to force out any air voids. So when you look under this plate, you shouldn't see anything but gray. Now in real life, stepping back from this model, you would not see a larger box than the pour. It's pretty close to the size of the base, and you'll notice chamfered edges. But the whole key is it's designed to pour on one side, force the air out of the steel plate, and it'll actually burp air. That's how you know you got it. When it burps coming out the other side with the material, you continue flowing it till it's solid. And that lets the applicator know, because you can't see through a steel plate, you're going to know, hey, I got the air bubble out. Now, if this was a long machine base, another very common use for non-shrink grout, you're going to have to drill air relief holes because it's such a long distance you're pumping the material. And if you don't, the only way you can force out that air is give it somewhere to come out. So never forget the relief holes. With that said, it's time to mix the material. So now the non-shrink grout has been poured at a fluid rate. You see from the view window, it's completely consolidated and solid, no air bubbles. All that's left on this project is to let it set. Now you know what non-shrink grout is all about.